This is the Raw Project, where wisdom and encouragement meet authenticity. Hi, welcome to episode 5 of the Raw Project, Real Authentic Wisdom. We are so thankful for all of your input and for your notes and comments. Keep them coming. We're really enjoying reading them. Last week, if you got a chance to watch episode 4, you saw the brains of the operation, Harrison, my youngest son, who thought of this whole thing. And if you got to see it, you saw that we talked about bridging the gap. And what we meant by that was just bridging the gap between the generations. Harrison and I, obviously, I'm a Generation X, he's a millennial, and we want to figure out or have conversation about how we can bridge the gap between the generations, between just people in general, bridging the gap, making more effort for communication and just to get to know one another and have understanding. And we want to build a bridge towards that. So today's episode is about the respect gap. And so today I'm going to do it a little bit differently because I'm not going to tell you a raw story, but I'm just going to talk to you about respect. I feel like that is something that is missing so much in our society, and it separates not just the generations, which is a major concern of ours, but it separates men and women. It separates just people in general from one another. And respect, I believe, is just a basic human thing that everybody should give to everybody else. It's just something that we should do. We should respect one another. People often say that respect is earned, and that is the truth. And I think the very first way that you earn respect is just being a human being. That in and of itself is enough for you to be respected, you know? And so I think that one of the things that I'm struggling with in our society, and I don't have an answer for it all, so I'm searching my mind for the real authentic wisdom, right? For it is this lack of respect and this dehumanization of people. I'm searching my mind about it. I'm thinking about it and having conversations with young people and older people about this very issue. And so when I think about respect, I think about it as just like common courtesy. Like if I go to Starbucks, you know, and I'm in line and whatever, and somebody comes in and they bump into me, or there's, you know, or maybe I'm not sure where the line starts. I just want to turn around and say, hey, were you in line in front of me? Or, hey, did I cut in front of you? I mean, just general respect. Or when somebody looks at me, you know, when I meet eyes with someone, instead of just pretending like I'm on my phone, I can actually say hello, you know, or how are you? Or, hey, it's a great day, or something like that. Just general respect that there's an actual human being in front of me, and I want to say, acknowledge their existence. And I think that's the issue, is that we have forgotten how to acknowledge the existence of other human beings. We've gotten so used to being in our own world, captivated by the audience of one, ourselves, that we don't look around and we don't see that there are other people in society that actually need for us to give them the respect of just being another human being on the planet. And so I'm thinking about this, and my mind is taking me to just different scenarios, you know, just even things that have happened in my life. And like I said, I'm not going to tell a raw story today, but I'm just thinking about ways that we need to, as humans, to bridge the gap of this respect. And I was just thinking about, obviously just common ways, or easy ways of, meeting people's eyes and saying hello and those types of things. But I think it goes obviously way deeper than that. And one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about today is understanding, is taking the time to understand or get a clear picture of the people that are around you. Whether they be young kids, whether they be millennials, or maybe they are Generation X, or even the baby boomers, God forbid, that we would actually take the time to get to know people and have some understanding about their character before we decide that we're not going to respect them, or before we decide that they're not human anymore and we dehumanize them and we put them into a category that they're not worthy to be listened to, or that they're not worthy of respect because they don't think about things in the same way that I think about them. And so I was giving that some thought, and I think, I heard someone say recently to me that, like, the millennials, they are like, oh, we don't want to hear anything from the baby boomers. Someone actually said that to me recently, and I thought about that. I thought, why is that? And I think what has happened is that there's just this general lack of respect when we don't understand one another. And that's where, like, prejudice comes from. When we are ignorant, or we lack understanding about people and where they come from and what their experience is and what their story is, then we either grow in respect for them, or we just have no respect for them whatsoever. And so I think what's happened is the generation gap has caused us to really actually believe that these different generations have nothing to say to us that is of value. They don't understand us. They don't know what we're going through. They don't care about what we're going through or what we're facing in our generation. And I think Harrison touched on that last week, that has a lot of truth to it, actually, because I know that people in my generation feel like that my son's generation, the millennials, they don't really think we have anything to offer them, and my generation actually thinks that the millennials have nothing to offer us. What could they possibly say that could give us any wisdom or help? And I'm here to say today that I think that we need to bridge the respect gap in a major way. I think we need to start understanding people and what they're going through, what their story is, and really take the time to look past this outward appearance and really look into the person's character or into the person's heart, no matter what their age is. And then we can decide whether, they're worthy of even more respect than just the general respect of, hello, how are you? It's a nice day. You look nice. I mean, just these types of things that of acknowledgement, acknowledging people's existence. And so I think we need to bridge that gap of saying, you know what, I really want to get to know this person, whether it be in your friend group of people that are like your age, or whether it would be in another type of group where there's multi-ethnic people, where there's older people and younger people, and you're just like, you know what, I'm going to decide today that I'm going to get to know somebody else. I'm going to actually try to understand where this person's coming from. And I think with the advent of, like, social media and what have you, we're like at an all-time low of respect, all-time low, because we can all hide behind our computers, our phones, and we can shout out things on social media that are completely and totally disrespectful. And we can just get away with it, and we can feel like, oh, okay, I've got my opinion out there. I don't really care what anybody else thinks about it. I don't really care about, that it might be offensive to this person or that person. We don't really care. I don't respect them anyway, so I can just say what I want. And I think that has caused a major rift or a major gap between the generations, even amongst the people groups, even amongst men and women. I was saying earlier to a friend, a young friend who's a millennial, I was saying to her, I was like, you know what? It's so funny how, you can be disrespected if you're beautiful, if you're a beautiful person on the outside, and you can be disrespected if people think you're not beautiful. You can be disrespected if people think you're super smart, or if people think you're not smart. You can be disrespected. And I think all of that has to do with, the person, the person's character, or the lack of getting to know or a person, or getting to taking yourself to a place where you actually understand a person and what their story is. And so I feel like, respect is something that everybody deserves, irregardless to whether you agree with that person. I'm a Generation X, right? And my son's a millennial, and I have a lot of millennial friends around me, and they have a lot of viewpoints. They have a lot of ideas. They have a lot of things that they're involved in that I don't necessarily agree with. But what it doesn't make me do, or what I won't allow it to do to me, is I won't allow it to cause me to disrespect them. And I think because I won't do that, I think that has caused a little bit of moving. It's like the older generation has to move, the younger generation has to move. And that's how we're going to actually bridge the gap. That's how we're going to make a bridge to one another, is that we both move. And I think that one of the ways that we can both move is in this area of respect. If I move and start to respect, just trying to understand the millennial, or trying to understand people that are way younger than me, if I just try to understand their story, and if I make that move to sit down respectfully and talk to them and to listen to them, and maybe we agree to disagree, but we can have mutual respect for one another, I think we could actually get someplace. I think we can actually move toward one another. And I think that that's so important. I think I said in episode 1 that we need to love our neighbor as ourselves. And I think one of the biggest issues with respect is that if you don't have any respect for yourself, how in the world are you going to have respect for somebody else? I mean, it's just not going to happen. You're not going to have respect for other people. So when I see people that are like bullies, when I see people that are prejudiced, when I see people that are, up on their bully platform, and they're talking about other people and their views and this, that, and the other, my heart kind of sinks, and I think they must not have that much respect for themselves to say whatever they're saying to this other person, and to talk about their beliefs, or talk about their feelings or what have you, and just put such a low value on them. And I think they must not have any respect for themselves. So I think the first thing is that to bridge the respect gap, you got to have respect for yourself. You've got to have respect for yourself. It's like, don't sell yourself short. especially, and I want to say this to the young women, it's like, you don't have to be, you don't have to be out there and, be all over social media, your face plastered everywhere. You don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to dress a certain way or whatever. You're valuable just because you're you. And so you don't have to, do all that extra. You just don't have to. So have respect for yourself. Young men, have respect for yourselves so that you can actually respect others. For young guys, it's like, you don't have to be the person that drives the cool car. You don't have to be the person that's got the best job, or, your education, or flashing money or whatever. You don't have to have all those things, to respect, or to get other people's respect. Just respect what you've been able to do so far. Be happy with whatever you've been able to accomplish so far. And just remember that you're young and this is the beginning of your journey, and so don't put all this pressure on yourself to be what society is telling you that you have to be respected. Just respect yourself. Secondly, I think to be able to show respect, you got to respect yourself, and then you've got to practice respecting other people. It takes practice. Anything that you do that's worth doing, or that's going to bring you any amount of success or whatever, you have to practice at it. And I think you and we all need to practice at respect. And I was thinking about this, the next time that you're out someplace and you see a homeless person and they're on the street, sometimes you see them with their kids, sometimes you see them, and they've got their car or whatever, and you see that person, practice giving them respect. Just look at them. Look at them. And if they say hi to you, say hi to them back. Don't just walk past or ignore like they're not standing right beside you. Maybe they're going to ask you if you have some change, or maybe they're going to ask you something and maybe you don't have it, or maybe you do, or maybe you don't feel comfortable with giving it. But don't just avert your eyes and walk past them, because they're human and they deserve to have somebody to look at them in their face and show them respect. You never know by doing that what might happen with that, or how that may make them feel about themselves. So you have to practice respect. You got to do it. And you've got to do it with the young, and you've got to do it with the old. Sometimes you get around old people, like older than me, and they want to tell you their story. Back in the good old days, back when I was, when I was a kid, I had to walk 40 miles to borrow a book, whatever. They want to tell you these stories. And maybe they don't mean anything to you, or maybe they don't apply to your life at all. But you know what? If you just take the time to listen and to understand, there just might be a piece of wisdom in there for you. And you know what? You may help them to feel like, you know what? I'm still relevant. I still have something to offer, even though I may be in my 80s, or even though I may be older than that. I have a really good friend and she's 95. Every time I go and sit down with her and visit with her and talk about just life and stuff, oh my gosh, it's just the best. And I always feel like I've learned a lifetime of things when I walk out of her house. I always feel really great about that. And so we just need to practice. The other thing is practice listening to little kids. I told you that I have 4 grandsons, and I tell you, they're so smart. And my oldest grandson, he and I just have these great conversations, and I listen to him, and I learned something from him. And I love that. So listen to the young, and listen to these millennials. They have a lot of things that they're going through. They have a lot of emotion. They're raw a lot of times. Sometimes they can drive you crazy. And I can say that because I got a lot of millennial friends. But if you take the time to listen to them, you just you're just better off. You just gain so much more insight into that generation if you just take the time to hear their stories. And the thing about that I've learned about millennials, especially, if you listen to them, if you listen to their story, 9 times out of 10, they're going to listen to you. It's just really good. And I think Harrison said in the last episode, if you give them a call, instead of even texting them or whatever, they'll talk to you on the phone and they'll tell you something about their life, and you'll gain more understanding about them and where they're coming from. And I think the last thing about respect that I want to say today is that respect is something that makes everybody feel like they're valued. Respect is something that causes people's hearts to feel like they're loved, to feel like they're cared about. And so I think that's those are like 3 reasons that you want to give respect, and that we want to bridge the gap, because we want people to feel like that they are cared for, that they're loved. And I tell you, when you respect a person enough to hear their story, when you respect a person enough to sit down with them and just listen to them tell what they're going through and what have you, that is a level of respect that puts value on that person like nothing else. And I tell you, in today's society, where everybody's on their own side of the fence, everybody is against this person because they believe this, or against that person because they feel this way, and whatever, and we're all scattered. When we start to just respect, even if we don't agree, we can respect one another. It will cause humans, us, you and I, to be valued. And if we value life, if we value one another, then the gap between us, whether it's race, whether it's gender, whether it's ethnicity, whatever it is, it's going to be bridged, and we're going to come closer and closer together. And so I want to leave you with the idea that we need to respect one another. We just need to do it. And I think that if we do, what's going to happen is that we are going to become closer together with people in relationships. Even people that are very different than us, people that believe differently, people that think differently. We are going to be able to come together if we can just bridge the gap of respect. Thank you for joining me on the Real Authentic Wisdom, the Raw Project. Hope to see you next time.